Hello and welcome to another video. I feel like I've just been filming Animorphs videos lately and vlogs, so it's very nice to sit down and do something else. I'm Judith and I'm going to be sharing with you my September TBR. Just a word of warning, I don't theme my TBRs, I don't make them seasonal. I like to include books that are seasonal, but most of the time I'm just trying to get through my TBR the same as anyone else. So if you're expecting, hi and welcome to Cozy Reads, where we'll sit with mugs of coffee and talk about how autumnal our books are, it's not going to happen, I'm sorry. So I want to read 20 books again this month. I read 20 books in July, that was my goal, and that worked out really well for me. It's about the right number to feel like a challenge, but to not feel overwhelming. It's actually 25 books, which I'll explain later, but it's 20 books, broadly speaking. So let's begin. So these are advanced review copies that were sent to me by publishers, books publishing in September, some of which I need to get to really quickly because otherwise I'm not going to read them in time for their pub date, but all of these sound amazing. I'm very excited, so let's start with those. The first of these I talked about in a recent vlog, which I'll link there. This is The Girl the Sea Gave Back by Adrienne Young. I talked about this before. I think it's going to be really good fun. I really enjoyed Sky in the Deep. I'm excited to get to this month, which I need to do pretty quickly because it comes out very soon. Next up is a book that I don't know too much about. I was sent this by Titan, the same as The Girl the Sea Gave Back. This is The Silver Wind by Nina Allen, and this is a powerful tale of time travel, time lost, time regained, and time disrupted. I haven't read a good time travel book in a very long time. I think probably the last one I read was Paris Adrift, which was a very long time ago now. So I think this is going to be a really fun book to read. I've not read anything by Nina Allen before. I thought about reading The Dollmaker, but I never have. I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes. The next one is one of those arcs I got sent quite a while ago and haven't read yet because the pub date wasn't kind of imminent and I had other things I had to read, and now the pub date's imminent. And this is After the Flood, which I'll be honest, I don't know that much about. So this comes from Borough Press, which is an imprint of HarperCollins publishers, and The World Would Never Be the Same After the Flood, an unforgettable novel of dark, despair and soaring hope from an extraordinary new voice for anyone who enjoyed Station 11, Zone 1 and The Road. I've not read any of those books. And I've obviously never read anything about Cassandra Montag before. I think this is going to be interesting. I'm hoping it's a good dystopia. I enjoyed the Book of M quite a lot, even though it gets a little bit draining at times. Something tells me this is going to be similar to that, but that could just be me making things up. The next few are digital arcs, so arcs I have on NetGalley. So first up is Siege and Sacrifice by Charlie Ann Holberg. This is the third book in the Numenor trilogy, which is her latest trilogy, which is kind of about demons inhabiting people's bodies and being brought forth. It's kind of about slavery. It's a little bit complicated, but they've been really good so far. I like her writing. I'd say it kind of sits on the line between her kind of like cozy romantic stuff and her really, really weird stuff. It's probably closer to this end of the spectrum, but I've enjoyed the first two, and because it's 47 North, they're pumping them out at a pace. Next up is A Little Hatred, which if you enjoy fantasy, you will already have heard of. It's a new book from Joe Abercrombie. I've never read anything by Joe Abercrombie before. I have one book of his way up in my TBR shelf that's to read probably next month, but I'm really excited for this. I've had a lot of friends recommend his writing to me, and I've had some trouble with grimdark books before, but I maintain it's not that I don't enjoy grimdark, it's that I never realised what it was or that was what I was reading, so it was a little bit unexpected, whereas this, I know what I'm getting going in. Next up I have The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker, who's apparently a very lovely human being, very excited. I've not read anything of his before. It's mostly, I got it on the recommendation of some friends who said he's lovely, and I don't know anything about this. We'll see, question mark. The last of those books I need to read is still Crow Saga by Paul Kruger. I don't know much about this. It's publishing by Orion, and it's got royals, criminals, having to band together, working to a common cause. Will they get along, will they not? I love this kind of book. I'm really excited for this. I love the cover. I think it's going to be good fun. Maybe, we'll see. And lastly is one of my most anticipated books that I forgot was one of my most anticipated books. This is The House of Sundering Flames by Aliette de Bodard. If you've read any of her stuff before, you'll know she writes the most kind of amazingly vivid, complicated, alternate world fantasy. I really enjoyed the first two books in this series. I think I own the first one, maybe? I may have unhauled it at some stage. I might have to get them again and reread them before this one, but I don't know if I'm going to have time, so I might just have to do my thing and jump in with zero prior planning. But this is Great Magical Houses of Paris were temporarily at peace with each other until House Harrier was leveled by a powerful explosion. Now peace has become chaos, tearing apart old alliances and prompting each house to hoard magic and resources against the threat of another such blast. There's dragons in these. I just love these. The most recent thing I read by her was her In the Vanisher's Palace, which I absolutely adored. I'm really looking forward to getting back into her writing, and this is so huge. It might be my kind of like biggest, most challenging read of the month, but I'm determined to read it, and I'm determined to have a good time. I can't wait to tell you all about it. On to loans. I do have an enormous bag of loans from when I met up with Asher and Justine earlier in September, but the one loan that I really need to get to is The Power. If you remember in my August TBR, which I will link, I had a book from a good friend Susanna that I had to read tomorrow when the war began, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but I had to read it because I had to give it back to Susanna. I borrowed this at the same time, and I really, really need to read it because I really, really need to give these books back to her. This is one of the many, I don't want to say Handmaid's Tale rip-offs, but they came out of that kind of climate. But I trust Susanna's recommendations, even though Tomorrow When the War Began wasn't for me. We'll see. Now onto my own TBR. My own TBR isn't that huge at the moment because I've been very, very good about book buying, kind of ish. So I have 5 books of my own TBR that I want to get to, which 3 of which are in a series. This is Josie Jeffries' Sovereign series. And I picked these up at Yalk. Josie is absolutely lovely. If you haven't had the pleasure of interacting with her, I really recommend it. I have read The Gilded King before, when it was free on ebook. It may still be free on ebook, worth checking. And I really enjoyed it, but I want to reread that just because it's been quite a long time, and then read the other 2. They're not that long, but they are vampires, and I remember them being just so refreshing, that first one even being so refreshing, and I'd really like to read them, just mainly in the interest of having read what I bought at Yalk within a reasonable amount of time since buying it. And then I also want to read Earthsea, which if you follow me on Goodreads, you'll see has been sat on my Goodreads shelf for ages because I started this. I read, 50 pages of this as part of my Book a Day in June challenge, but I couldn't get into it. I just wasn't really convinced. And some friends said, put it down, don't try and read it now, it'll throw you off the rest of the month, pick it up another time. But I haven't quite had the courage to take it off my Goodreads shelf because I didn't want to admit defeat, so I'm going to try and read that this month. I think if I stick it in my bag for the bus, that might be a good way of kind of forcing myself to read it because there's nothing else to do. And last of my owned TBR that I have not yet read is The Wicked King. It's not The Wicked King, let's hurry back. It's Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan. I'm going to put this down because it's very, very white. I've heard a lot about this book, but not too much about the plot, so I don't feel like it's been spoiled for me. I bought this at Yalk. I've been wanting to read it for a while. I'm excited to get to it. It doesn't look too long. I do have an audiobook planned for this month. I plan to listen to Children of Ruin, which is the sequel to Children of Time, which I listened to last month and absolutely adored. I'm really excited for that one. And yeah, it's going to be really good. So now I'm going to do what I did last month and pick 5 books from my rereads jar. This was really, really good for me last month. I reread some amazing stuff that I just hadn't picked up in a long time, which you can hear about. Either my wrap-up will already be up or it will be coming very soon, so you'll hear all about that. But I want to keep going with this, so I'm going to pick 5 more reads from this. Let's go. I'm going to shake it up. I clearly didn't shake these up very well. This is the Conqueror's Saga book 2. So I read, it's still here because I haven't taken it back to the library, but I read And I Darken last month. So it is excellent to be continuing on with Now I Rise. This is the second book in the series. I think these books get better with every single book. It's really nice to be able to continue that on month, so excited to put that on my TBR. This is Nevernight, and I mean, maybe it's just because I don't have that many books I want to reread, but this is not actually Nevernight, this is GodsGrave, which I read Nevernight last month I had it on audiobook, and I read the last few bits as a physical book because my audiobook went wrong. GodsGrave. The reason this is so shiny is because it's the Goldsborough book edition. I do have the Goldsborough book edition of Dark Dawn coming in the post. Oh look! It's a leaflet for their Book of the Month club. Yes, I'm very, very excited because I need to read this before Dark Dawn comes out anyway, so that's perfect timing. Uprooted. Ooh, this is one of my favourite books. This is usually my kind of like bath time book. This is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. It's a fairy tale kind of book. It's not a retelling, it's just an original fairy tale. I really love the magic system in this, and it's one of my favourite comfort reads, so this will be a really nice addition to this month. Going in again. Come on. More good things, more good things. Ooh, very good, very good. It's nice to have some sci-fi on this list. This is Becky Chambers' Wayfarers series. So yes, Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I love these books. I think they're absolutely wonderful. Some of the most well-written, character-driven sci-fi in the whole universe. And it's really nice to be able to read these again. And last pick of my rereads jar, which needs redoing. That might be a video in and of itself. It's going through my shelf and seeing what I want to reread. Illumini, more sci-fi. Oh, nice. I reread Illumini in July, I think, possibly. So I'm on to Gemina, which I think the first time I read this, I really did enjoy it, but the first time I read it, I was trying to get through it as quickly as possible. I honestly don't remember why. Maybe Obsidio was coming out very shortly, but I don't think I took the time to enjoy some of the moments of this story. So this may be one to savour this month. I have said before, it's actually 25 books, because the other thing I have to do this month is read books 5 to 9 of the Animorphs books and edit the videos for those, which if you want to watch the first 3 or 4, the playlist will be up in the corner. Oh my goodness, there's so many books. Luckily the Animorphs books are short and I can read them on my lunch breaks at work is when I like to read them, because they're a complete break from what I normally do. I should get reading. I need to start these, otherwise I'm going to not be able to finish this enormous pile of enormous books. If you liked this video, if you want to support me in finishing this ridiculously huge TBR challenge for myself, then you can like this video, you can subscribe, you can follow me on all of my socials, and I will see you in the next one.